Hello, my name is Nancy Rakoff, and I'm Executive Director here at the Marin Museum of Contemporary Art. I'm so excited to welcome you to the virtual opening of our current exhibition. It's our summer national show, and it's called Left Coast. When we were thinking about the theme for this exhibit, we did not see the pandemic coming. But we did know that 2020 was going to be an election year. And so we wanted to choose a topic that would be very fruitful for ideas and imagery and the attributes of the left coast. We were so thrilled to be able to use the services of a local gallerist whose name is Ken Harman Hashimoto. Ken is the perfect choice for selecting this exhibit because he has galleries on the West Coast and on the East Coast, so he's in a perfect position to see what's different about these two areas. I'm delighted to welcome him now, Ken Harman Hashimoto.
Hello, I'm Ken Harman Hashimoto. I am a curator, gallerist, and arts writer based in San Francisco and New York City. I opened my very first gallery space in San Francisco's Tenderloin neighborhood in 2010 and opened my second location in New York City in 2016. I've published a few art books over the years, including a book with Wes Anderson in 2015. And I have a book coming out soon based on the films of Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki coming out later this year. In addition to that, I am the former online editor for High Fructose magazine.
When we were thinking about this exhibit, we were reflecting on how the West Coast, left coast, has been allure. It has a magnetic draw for people. And migration to the coast has always been an important cultural factor here. And so I'm curious, Ken, to what degree did migration, historical migration, play a role in your thinking about the exhibit?
Yeah, I think that people have been coming to the left coast for decades and hundreds of years for a variety of reasons. The majority of those reasons seem to be the vast opportunities that the West Coast offers, whether you look at people coming post-depression, post-emancipation for land, people coming post-Dust Bowl, people coming to mine gold, people coming to log, timber. People have come to the West Coast to pursue their dreams and to pursue opportunities for them and for their families.
What qualities of the left coast do you think have been a sort of a muse and inspiration for artists, and how did that figure in your selection of the artworks for this exhibit?
I think that something that the West Coast offers, in addition to the beautiful weather and sunshine and beautiful terrain, which of course is very inspiring for everyone, especially artists, but also just the land and the freedom of space and the ability to work big. I think that if you look at a lot of land art, you don't see too much east of the Mississippi, but you certainly see a lot of it west of the Mississippi. And the big open spaces and the beautiful climate and the beautiful terrain have been drawing artists out here for quite some time.
What about the social issues? Do you believe those are important in art making?
Absolutely, 100%. Making art in and of itself is a political act. And, obviously the West Coast has a very deep history, especially here in the Bay Area for that. And the West Coast has brought filmmakers and writers and poets and revolutionaries and artists for quite some time now.
There was so much artwork for you to review and consider for this exhibit. And I'm curious to know what qualities and criteria were you looking for as you selected the work?
Yeah, one of the difficult things about this show is that, in terms of picking the works for the show, was that the West Coast represents so many things to so many different people, and creating a visual blueprint of that and of what the West Coast represents through everything from its beautiful landscapes and scenery to its political activism to its environmental concerns was, of course, important, and trying to find a way to bring all of those things together to create a very cohesive vision of what the West Coast is, beyond just a beautiful place or beyond just a place of social justice or activism, but to incorporate all of those facets together, because that really is, to me, what the West Coast does represent.
And when you were looking at media, what diversity were you trying to achieve with the media you selected?
Yeah, I intentionally gave a lot of thought to presenting a broad range of media, ranging from video art to sculpture, in terms of two-dimensional work, representational painting, abstract painting, a variety of media, because the West Coast is more than just one thing. It represents so many different types of people and walks of life, and I felt that the exhibition should convey that as well.
While we were planning the exhibit, the staff and those of us here at Marin MoCA were having fun thinking about how the left coast really represents the West Coast, which is the best coast. And we were, of course, very biased with our love for the place where we live. So, Ken, you're the perfect person to make this decision. You have a gallery on the East Coast and also on the West Coast. So, which is the best coast?
Well, my politician answer would be that every coast is wonderful, but of course, the left coast. I left California when I was a young man, and I actually headed east. And 10 years later, I found myself coming back, and I returned to California after spending many years in New England. And there was something about California specifically, and Northern California specifically, that brought me back home. And even though I spend a lot of time in New York, I still will always consider the West Coast to be my home, no matter where I am.
Artists are motivated to enter shows like our current national exhibit because they know that their artwork will be placed in front of the eyes of a qualified gallerist. And so in this particular case, we had hundreds of applications. It was a real prize just to be selected, but we are also, as a museum, able to recognize artists by giving them cash awards. So the first 3 places in this exhibit involve a cash award, and then Ken was also able to give a number of honorable mentions. Here are the award winners.
First off, I would like to say that it was very difficult picking not just the winners for this exhibition, but even just the artists involved. For the 3rd place, we chose Matthew Uzinowitz with his work Safety Device. For me personally, that piece, the second I saw it, I immediately loved the dimensionality of it, the tangibility of it, the refugee crisis specifically immediately came to mind for me, and that shade of fluorescent orange transcends not just a life jacket, but also just sort of like safety and nowadays personal protective equipment. And for me, that color almost triggers all of the important things that are happening, not just in terms of refugee crises, but coronavirus, and all of that. So for me, that piece in particular stood out as being very important and representational of a broad variety of concerns that we have as a people. For second place, we went with Jenny Phillips with Black Smoke Rising and Kincaid Fire swatches. I loved those pieces as certainly they provide a topical discussion about what's happening here in Northern California and in the Bay Area, though certainly throughout all of California, and at the same time address a lot of important issues such as climate change and the environment. But she does so in a very interesting and very beautiful means of abstraction. It's not representational per se, but once you get closer, once you look at it and you connect those dots and you realize what the work is meant to symbolize, that really struck me. And then for the first place, congratulations to Spencer Snyder for Exposed. a really beautiful painting that I think captures a lot of the natural beauty of the left coast. And when you look at all three winners together, I think that the broad range of representational, abstract, two-dimensional, three-dimensional really shows the diversity of artists, of people who live on the West Coast, and of all of the different types of amazing work that are being made here. You know, much as the West Coast is not just one thing, but many things, the art world too works in a similar way. And I wanted to express that by choosing these three winners specifically.
Ken, it's been a pleasure working with you on this exhibit, and I want to thank you so much on behalf of all of us here at Marin MoCA for the hours and hours of effort and the wisdom that you have shared with us in selecting this show and making the awards. And I know personally, I can hardly wait to visit your gallery in San Francisco when you're able to reopen. And now I'd like to announce the honorable mentions. As Ken said, there was so much good artwork in this exhibit. But I'm pleased that we have 7 honorable mentions to be able to really call out some really outstanding accomplishments. So the first honorable mention goes to Jeff Liepman for his painting Morning Walk Through the North Bay Fires. Jeff's painting shows an individual wearing a mask, and I think that has become so emblematic in many ways of life on the West Coast. The second honorable mention is to J.J. Leroux for her beautiful photograph called Love Letter. And it's this wonderful scene of a post office box with a love letter stenciled onto it. And to me, it's indicative of the tender way that each one of our artists treated their subject matter. An honorable mention goes to Richard Ambrose for his beautiful drawing of very, very heavy traffic, a huge masterpiece called The Road to Insignificance, which chronicles the traffic issue that we deal with on the West Coast. Fourth honorable mention goes to Sel Hansel. Her work is called Anti-Gun Violence Rally, and it is showing the protesters, which are a part and parcel of the way we communicate political issues here on the West Coast. Fifth honorable mention goes to Noelle Oxenhandler for her painting called Forest Rakers. And these are individuals wearing masks, holding rakes, and very much typifies the way we live our lives now, trying to control the wildfire threat. An honorable mention goes to Stephanie Moore for Tech Lesson. And this was a very tender photograph of 2 women on the bus trying to learn how to use their cell phones, and really a great testament to how much education and learning has gone on, especially among our seniors when it comes to absorbing tech abilities. Our 6th honorable mention goes to Catherine Daly for H2O. This is the sculpture, the bronze sculpture of the water bottle that's been discarded. And O is spelled O-W-E. And I think the artist is claiming that we do owe it to our environment to keep these plastics out of the ocean. And the final honorable mention goes to Jude Pittman for Embers Forest Rakers. And Jude is also depicting a scene where we have got individuals wearing masks who are maintaining the forest around us. So congratulations to all of the honorable mention winners. Now we're going to take a moment to show you each of the 46 artworks that are in this show. And so it's the perfect time for me to thank all of our exhibiting artists for sharing your beautiful artwork with us. And I also want to thank you, our viewing audience, for being with us today. And I just want to let you know that all of us at Marin MoCA are looking forward to seeing you in person as soon as we are able to open the galleries.